Happy Smash Eve! As you can imagine, I can't wait for tomorrow. With Super Smash Bros. Ultimate nearly out, I wanted to make a video about Smash in some way. But honestly, what could I possibly say that hasn't been said hundreds of times already? I mean, really, you already know what's up with this series, you don't need me to tell you. But then I got an idea. I'll talk about a game that's similar to Smash, but was unfortunately unable to live up to its inspiration and has fallen into relative obscurity. That game being PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. God, I hate that name. I'm mostly going to refer to it as All-Stars from now on. This was Sony's answer to Smash. Some even call it Sony Smash. When it was announced, many Nintendo fans were angry and quick to call it a ripoff. Me also being a Nintendo fan, didn't understand this at all. I mean, okay, I get it from a console war perspective, as stupid as that is, but I like Smash Brothers. All these people who called it a ripoff like Smash Brothers, why would you have a problem with more games that are like Smash Brothers? I was excited. While I'm not as big of a PlayStation fan as I am a Nintendo fan, Sony still has some good series and plenty of character potential for their own Smash game. A lot more potential than a Microsoft Smash, which would just be Gears of War versus Halo, meanwhile all of Rare's IPs are still locked in the basement never to see the light of day again. Anyways, yeah, I was really looking forward to Sony Smash. I didn't care if it was a rip-off. The idea of playing another game like Smash Bros. With Sly Cooper and Ratchet & Clank was amazing. Plus, there really wasn't any other alternative to Smash. I mean, nowadays there are a few indie games that follow the same formula. I think they're referred to as platform fighters. But back then there was nothing else. Well, besides Shrek Super Slam, of course. So seeing another take on Smash's formula was pretty interesting. So I eagerly awaited it. And then it came out, and it kinda sucked. I considered it to be one of the most disappointing games I've ever played. But I haven't touched the game in years. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought? Well, only one way to find out. Now keep in mind, I'm going to be constantly comparing it to Smash. I'll mostly be referencing Melee and Brawl and keep comparisons to Smash 4 and Ultimate to a minimum, as it's not exactly fair since they came out after All-Stars. But there still will be times I bring them up, so as long as you're okay with that, let's begin. Well, if I can give a compliment to All-Stars right away, its intro scene is pretty sick. You've got all the characters fighting their rivals in this dark environment while specific parts of them glow. I'll explain what the significance of the rivals are later, but this is a pretty cool intro. That's something I've been missing from Smash. Smash 64 and Melee had these really cool intros, but with Brawl they just played scenes from Subspace. Smash 4 just used trailer footage. But this is great, and gives the game some style. Although at the end, when the announcer says the name of the game, it's pretty weak.
PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale!
Like, come on, you can do better than that. Yeah, like that. I know, that was the biggest nitpick ever, I apologize. And to be fair, Brawl and Smash 4 didn't even do that. Now, first thing I'm going to cover is the roster. It's the thing people will care about the most with any fighting game. People don't get super hyped over directional air dodges or a different way to perform a perfect shield. No, they get hyped over new characters like King K. Rool. About damn time he got in. And All-Stars' roster is a mixed bag. It's got some really good picks, but it also has some questionable exclusions and just some dumb choices. So let's start with the good. The roster does a good job at representing each generation of PlayStation. There isn't a huge PS3 bias, which is good, and you have a mix of well-known characters like Kratos, Ratchet, Jack, and Nathan Drake. But it has some pretty obscure and wacky characters as well, like Parappa the Rapper, Sir Daniel Fortescue, Toro, and even Fat Princess. Anyone remember that game? Also, this game has Sly Cooper, the single best PlayStation character, and any character roster that has Sly in it can't be bad, right? Well, things start to fall apart when you think about who isn't here. While it is good that there is a decent amount of PS1 characters, but, notice something about them? How most of them are pretty obscure characters? While I have no problem at all with there being obscure characters, there are several big icons of the PS1 who seem to be missing. Where is Crash Bandicoot? Where is Spyro the Dragon? Where is Cloud? Where is Solid Snake? These are some of the first games anyone would think of when it comes to the PS1, and they're just nowhere. I mean, it doesn't bother me on a personal level. I never had a PS1, so I'm not attached to these characters. But they're an important part of PlayStation history. Not having Crash or Cloud is like if the original Super Smash Bros. Didn't have Mario or Link. Whatever you think of them, they're an important part of Nintendo, and not having them wouldn't be right. Now, it's probably because Sony doesn't own these characters, but you'd think they'd work something out to get them in. This game does have third-party characters, and oh boy, these third-party characters. I'm not about to complain about having third-party characters, as I'm completely fine with them being in Smash, but there is a very clear difference in how these two games handle third-party characters. So first up is Heihachi from Tekken. Now this is a good pick, since while Tekken is third-party, it used to be PlayStation exclusive on consoles, and didn't go third-party until the Xbox 360. So Tekken is definitely associated with PlayStation. Heihachi gets a pass, but since they seem to be willing to get a third-party character linked to the PS1 like this, you'd think they'd do the same for the other missing characters. Okay, so next up is Raiden from Metal Gear Solid? Wait, so they didn't get Snake, but they did get Raiden. I mean, I guess he fits. Metal Gear Solid is mostly known as a PlayStation series, but Snake is more iconic to the series. And don't say it's because Snake was in Brawl. That doesn't mean he's suddenly off limits. Kratos appeared as a guest from Mortal Kombat, and that game was much more recent than Brawl was. Next is Big Daddy. What the fuck? Big Daddy? Really? You chose a Big Daddy. There is so much wrong with this. So, the Big Daddy is from BioShock. He's an enemy type, not a character. Now, okay, you could argue that in Smash, none of the Pokemon are characters. They're different species. But here's the difference. Pokemon is one of Nintendo's biggest franchises. Meanwhile, BioShock was originally an Xbox 360 exclusive. It did get ported to the PS3 later, but the point is, most people associate BioShock with the 360, not the PS3. I just don't understand, of all the third-party characters you could have chosen, why Big Daddy? I mean, yeah, BioShock isn't some obscure game, and the Big Daddy is the most iconic part of it, but it doesn't fit in at all. Okay. Last third-party character, and it's Dante from the Devil May Cry series. He's linked with the PS2, so that's a good, hold on, who is that? Wait a second. That's the reboot version of Dante. What in the goddamn hell is wrong with this picture? Why would you put Dante in this game? No one liked him or his reboot. Are you asking for a backlash? At the time, I didn't know anything about Devil May Cry, so I didn't know this was a different version of Dante. But even still, I took one look at this guy and I just wanted to punch him in his stupid face. Imagine you're a hardcore PlayStation fan and love Devil May Cry, but hated what the reboot has turned out to be. And seeing what is supposedly a celebration of all things PlayStation, and instead of seeing the iconic original Dante that was actually from the PS2, you see this.
I'm your prime date, you ugly sack of shit.
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
You could have had this. But instead, you chose this.
You're not on the list. I am now.
You know, this scene would have been funny if he actually wrote his name. For fuck's sake, the reboot wasn't even out yet. And wait, the reboot wasn't out yet? All-Stars came out in November of 2012. The DMC reboot came out January 2013. Was the reason they chose this version of Dante because they were just advertising the reboot? And hold on, that's not Raiden from Metal Gear Solid 2, or even 4. That's specifically his Metal Gear Rising Revengeance design. When did Rising come out? February 2013. Oh my god, they didn't. No, wait. What about Big Daddy? BioShock 1 and 2 have been out for a while. However, all other BioShock content is specifically from BioShock Infinite. And that game came out in March 2013. I don't believe this. This is the big problem with these third-party characters. They're just there to advertise upcoming games. They don't feel genuine at all. They weren't chosen because they have an important legacy with PlayStation, or even that they're just gaming icons. Let's compare this to the third-party characters of Smash. Super Smash Bros. Brawl was the first to have third-party characters. And what characters did they pick? Solid Snake and Sonic the Hedgehog. Two gaming icons that most people who know anything about video games will recognize. And how about Smash 4? Well, that game introduced Mega Man and Pac-Man. Again, gaming icons. But that's not it. With DLC, they added Ryu from Street Fighter and Cloud fucking Strife. And then in Ultimate, they not only kept every previous third-party character, they also added Simon and Richter Belmont. And who knows what they'll add in DLC. Do you see the difference here? Every single third-party character is an icon. Characters recognized by the majority of gamers. And they weren't just picked because they had another game coming out soon. And because of that, it really feels like there was genuine passion in picking these characters. Like, they didn't need to go out of their way to be able to use these characters, but they did, because they actually cared about putting in characters people recognize and want. Not to mention, they got Snake and Cloud before All-Stars did. How the hell does Super Smash Bros., the Nintendo crossover fighting series, have Solid Snake and Cloud Strife, but PlayStation All-Stars doesn't? How is this even a thing? Who let this happen? How is this footage on screen from Smash and not PlayStation All-Stars? You know, some people think Crash might have a chance to be in Smash, and if that does happen, it will be the ultimate salt in the wound. It's frustrating because I do think there was some passion that went into picking the roster. They went out of their way to pick obscure PS1 characters that most people wouldn't recognize, and also putting in some PS2 classics that didn't really go anywhere on PS3 like Sly Cooper and Jak and Daxter. They could have just purely focused on franchises that originated or managed to carry over to the PS3, but they didn't throw the PS1 and 2 under the bus. But I don't see any passion that went into picking the third-party characters. If they really cared, they would have went out of their way to get characters like Crash, Spyro, Snake, and Cloud. But they didn't. Now, the game did have DLC. 4 new characters. I only have the first 2 because they were free for a limited time, and I didn't get the last 2. The first pack brought Cat from Gravity Rush. That was a PSP game, so fair enough. And Emmett Graves from Starhawk. I don't know anything about it, but it's a PS3 exclusive, so it's fine. The next pack added Zeus from God of War, and is that Isaac Clarke? Really? We're doing this again? Guess when Dead Space 3 came out, February 2013. Another bloody advertisement.
But wait! There's more!
So we've already established that there are some glaring exclusions from this roster, but there are also a lot more exclusions. Let's take a look at this. Do you see what's missing? No. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at Smash for reference. So we got many franchises represented here. Let's take a look at Mario. Aside from him, we got Luigi, Peach, Bowser, Yoshi, and Wario. How about Donkey Kong? We got the Big Ape himself and his little buddy Diddy, and at long last, King K. Rool. Do you see what's missing now? Okay, let's take a look at Sly. His series is represented by Sly Cooper himself, and that's it. What? No Murray or Carmelita or Dimitri?
You spy my macho frame? I'm packing too much sexy muscle to fit in vent like you stick dudes.
Okay, Sly isn't that big. Maybe they wouldn't give him much priority, as sad as that is. How about Ratchet and Clank? Well, we have Ratchet and Clank, and again, that's it. No Captain Quark, no Nefarious, no Ace Hardlight, no Angela, or the Mathematician.
Nobody, I mean nobody, gets by the mathematician.
Guess all the good names were taken.
Watch your mouth, Zero, before the mathematician subtracts your head from your shoulders.
Or anyone else. Problem is that each series represented only had one playable character, mostly. And that's pretty disappointing, because one of the most appealing things about Smash is being able to play as characters you normally can't play as in their own games, like Bowser or King K. Rool. Melee was the first Smash game I played, and I remember the first character I picked was Bowser, because he's always the boss, the guy you fight, and this game finally let me play as him. Sure, you could play as him in spin-offs, but using Bowser to drive a cart is hardly the same as actually fighting with him. This is such a missed opportunity for All-Stars. There's more potential you can get out of these games than just the protagonist. Now there are two exceptions. As previously stated, one of the DLC characters is Zeus from God of War. Again, that was DLC, but I guess it's cool. Another exception is on the base roster, and it's Evil Cole. Really? So in Infamous, you play as Cole McGrath, and there's a morality system. Basically, you can be good or evil. So here, they split Cole into two characters, Good Cole and Evil Cole. You could have just made Evil Cole an alternate costume and put in Kessler or whatever. But no, the one time you put in two characters from the same game, it's just the same character again. Now to be fair, the first Smash also had only one character per series. Again, with a couple exceptions. But to not be fair, that was an N64 game, and All-Stars is on the PS3. It came out in 2012, which is 4 years after Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which is the third Smash game. So yeah, the roster is a bit ass, but has potential. If they had better third-party characters, then I'd say it was at least a decent roster. But there's one more thing. The total number of characters here is 20, not including DLC. That might sound like a good amount at first, but then you realize that 11 years prior, Melee had 26 characters. Even with DLC, it falls short of Melee. Now let's be fair, Melee had a lot of clone characters, so let's just exclude them. Without clones, Melee's roster totals to 19. So there we go. All-Stars has one more character than Melee if we exclude clones. However, while it is commendable All-Stars is largely free of clones, Evil Cole is still a clone. He's a bit more different than most clones in Smash, but he is still a clone. And if we're gonna exclude the clones from Melee, we gotta exclude Evil Cole. And that means both Melee and All-Stars have an equal 19 unique characters. The only difference being 11 years and a whole new console generation. Just be glad I didn't compare it to Brawl's roster. That game had over 30 characters, plus it had less clones, and the clones it did have had more differences. And it was on the Wii, a much less powerful system. No matter which way you look at it, the only Smash game PlayStation All-Stars can beat with its roster is the original Smash 64. And that's sad. Okay, that's enough with the roster. Let's actually pick a character and start playing. Except wait, I have one more complaint. So you know how in Smash you can change the color of your character and how you see what the character looks like so you can choose your favorite one? I can't believe I have to say that this feature is apparently a luxury because it doesn't happen in All-Stars. When choosing a character, instead of seeing what it looks like on the character, you get this circle with two colors on it, and you just have to guess what the character will look like with it on. Like, let's see, this ult for Sly is apparently red and black. Well, I do like the color red. Hopefully this has red as the primary color. And no, black is the primary color. Okay, this looks like it's white and red. Maybe that will be what I want? No, white is the primary color here. If I want Sly to wear red, I have to pick red and yellow. Of course, how silly of me. I guess whatever side the color is on determines what is the primary color, but it's not very consistent. Okay, this ult for Ratchet is red and blue. Let's see what it looks like, and it's yellow. Why? Why can't you just show me what the alts look like when I'm selecting the character? Are you just that lazy as to not recolor these renders for the alts? You know how you could have easily done this without making new renders? Just have the model appear on the character select screen like other games. Come on, it's so easy. How could you mess it up this badly? One thing I do like is that every character has an alternate costume, and they also come in different colors. Even in Smash, all the way up till Ultimate, only a select few characters have actual alternate costumes. And they aren't guaranteed to also come in different colors. So that's one thing this game has over Smash. See, this video isn't just talking about the bad stuff, but there's another thing that's annoying. There are more alternate costumes that are DLC. That itself isn't an issue, but sometimes your opponent can be wearing one even though you haven't bought it. And no, it isn't because I played online, I'm in arcade mode. Oh, and even though I haven't bought Zeus or Isaac, they still appear in the character select taunting you, and you can fight them in arcade mode. I hate it when games do this. If I don't have the DLC, don't put it in the game. Okay, now I'm really done with the roster. Let's get on with the actual gameplay. I mean, everything I've said so far would be mostly irrelevant if the game is just as fun to play as Smash, right? Well, I hate to say it, but it doesn't even come close to being as fun as Smash. You might think if it copied Smash, it would still be fun, right? But the issue isn't that the game copied Smash too much, it's that it didn't copy Smash enough. I mean, the game looks like Smash, but it doesn't play like Smash, which would be fine, except in its efforts to distinguish itself from Smash, all it did was make something worse. On the surface, it does control similarly, but it just feels a lot worse. I was never quite sure why this game didn't feel as good as Smash to play, but revisiting it and giving it a bit more thought, I think I have an idea. Okay, let's look at Smash. The controls and mechanics were simple, yet also deep. You have two attack buttons, A for your normal attacks and B for your special attacks. Your attacks are determined by which button you push in addition to where the analog stick is pointed. For example, if you aren't moving the analog stick at all and push A, you will have your light jab combo. But if you tilt it forward, you get a stronger and longer reaching move, and the results are different if you tilt up or down. Doing these in the air also performs different attacks. You can also do a dash attack by attacking out of a dash. In addition to all that, you have smash attacks, which are performed by jamming the analog stick in the direction and pressing A. Smash attacks tend to be the most powerful moves a character has, and are typically the most obvious killing moves. They can also be charged to make them even more powerful. Then there's the B attacks. There aren't as many of them as normal attacks, only getting one per direction, and most of the time they remain the same in the air. It's a simple system that anyone can easily figure out within a few minutes of playing, but is also deep enough for advanced players to get a lot out of it. All Stars follows a similar structure, but differs in various ways. It still has attacks performed by a specific button in combination with the direction, but it is missing a few things. For one, there aren't any smash attacks, as they aren't necessary in this game for a reason I'll cover later. There's also no dash attacks, or dashing in general, and most attacks remain the same in the air. Some do change, but for the most part it's the same move as on the ground, just in the air. Also, there are no back aerial attacks. In Smash, once you jump, your character won't turn around if you move backwards, and because of this, you get a back air attack. This is not in All Stars because your character turns to face the direction you move, even in the air. Now there is one big thing added, and that's a third attack button. This has its benefits, but I think the problems it adds outweigh them. So again, in Smash, you have two attack buttons, A and B. Their purposes are very clear, A for normal attacks, B for special attacks. It's easy to tell them apart. But in All Stars, the purpose of each of these buttons isn't clear. They are pretty much interchangeable in their function. Most attacks could be mapped to any of the three buttons and it wouldn't make much of a difference. In Smash, you couldn't swap Captain Falcon's jab with his Falcon Punch. It wouldn't make any sense. Now you'd think adding a third attack button would mean there are more overall attacks each character can perform, but not really. In Smash, you could perform 13 different attacks with just the A button. That includes both grounded and aerial attacks. In addition, you have 4 special moves, which totals your moves to 17. But here, each button has 4 attacks, so at a minimum, each character has 12 attacks total. That number varies from character to character since there might be a different attack in the air, but it isn't consistent throughout the roster. Some characters have more attacks than others. For instance, Sly has 16 attacks, but Jack has 13. And then Toro's circle moves change what the triangle attacks do, which adds on a lot more moves. He has at least 12 moves mapped to the triangle button, and that's not including potential differences to aerial attacks, and also the square and circle attacks. The amount of moves each character has is different, which is really inconsistent and makes learning movesets trickier. In Smash, every character has the same amount of moves, which in addition to it only using 2 buttons, makes figuring out each character's movesets easy. Smash has consistency with how the moves are laid out. For instance, pretty much all projectiles are performed with a neutral B. There are some exceptions if a character has more than one projectile, but usually if a projectile is performed with the side B, it has different properties that make it make sense to be a side B move. Like various characters have a boomerang kind of move on the side B, but your standard projectile is always going to be neutral B. But with All-Stars, your standard projectile could be anywhere. Jack's standard projectile is forward triangle, yet Kratos' standard projectile is neutral circle. It also doesn't help when quite a few characters use a lot of projectiles. Trying to learn Nathan Drake or Colonel Raddick's movesets is a hassle because they're a mess of various kinds of projectiles. Even within a single character's moveset, it can get weird. Toro's side circle throws shurikens, but so does his up triangle. And then there's Jack. So all of his square moves are fine, they're all melee attacks, but to explain his triangle and circle moves will require some context. In Jak 3, you had 4 weapons that each got 2 upgrades. These weapons were color-coded and had similar functions, and it made sense to swap between them. Here, he uses a few of them, but they are placed in bizarre positions. So Jak's neutral triangle is using one of his blue guns, it shoots out electricity. His forward triangle is one of his yellow weapons. It's a standard projectile. His up triangle is one of his purple weapons, it fires a powerful ball of electricity. And his down triangle is another yellow weapon. It's also a standard projectile that's angled down and ricochets. Now for his circle moves, his neutral circle is one of his yellow weapons, it fires a drone. His forward circle is one of his blue weapons, it fires 3 homing projectiles. His up circle is one of his purple weapons, it makes the opponents float for a second. And his down circle is one of his red weapons, it's a chargeable shockwave. Do you see the issue here? Do you see how this could be confusing? The colors don't match the direction, the only exception being the purple weapons both being up. But why is one of the blue weapons a neutral triangle while the other is on forward circle? Why is there only one red weapon but all 3 yellow ones? And why do the yellow ones take up neutral forward and down positions? If both neutral attacks were blue, both forward attacks were yellow, and both down attacks were red, then it would be fine. But no. These guns were already conveniently color-coded, but you still had to make it confusing. Am I explaining this right? Am I making any sense to you guys? Do you see how it can be really confusing to learn these characters? If you play a character enough, you will inevitably learn their moves, but it won't help to learn other characters. Even if I don't use Charizard, I can still pick him up and know what I'm doing because I played a lot of Bowser. But just because I use Nathan Drake doesn't mean I'll be able to easily pick up Colonel Raddick. Maybe I just suck at this game, that's always a possibility. But if I'm able to remember the movesets of over 60 characters in Smash easily, but struggle to remember the movesets of 20 characters in All-Stars, isn't some of that the fault of the game? Okay, so here's some other differences between this and Smash. For one thing, you know how in Smash, if you get hit hard enough, you'll be in this falling animation, and when you hit the ground, you will be lying down? Well, a few things. For one, when in this falling animation, you can jump or attack out of it, or just choose to land like that. But in All-Stars, you can get into a similar animation, but you can't manually get out of it, or even land on the ground like that. Instead, your character will automatically jump out of it, and there's nothing you can do before that happens. It limits your options, and it's just annoying. In Smash, when you fall on the ground, you have a few options. For one, you can stay on the ground for a while. You can still get hit while on the ground, and I think the character will eventually get up, but you mostly control when you get up. You can get up on the spot, you can roll left or right, or you can attack out of it. In All-Stars, when you're grounded, you are invincible, but you only have a brief moment before your character gets up. You can extend your time on the ground by holding L1, but it's not by much. You can roll out of it, but you can't attack out of it. Again, your options are more limited than in Smash. Also, since you can't grab ledges, there's a lot absent like ledge attacks and no real need to prevent your opponent from getting back to the main area. Also makes moving around the stages a little more annoying. One feature completely absent is staling, or stale moves. In Smash, the more you use the same move, the more stale it gets. Stale moves do less damage than fresh ones. This is a feature even the original game on the N64 had, and what it did was encourage you to change up your moves and not just spam the same thing over and over again. Now obviously this doesn't stop people from spamming, but it makes it less effective, and because All-Stars doesn't have this, it means there's absolutely no downside to just constantly using the same move over and over again. Now you also have a block button. In Smash you get this bubble shield. It shrinks the more you have it out and regenerates when you're not using it. If you keep it out, it will eventually break, leaving you stunned. It also gets weaker when it's attacked, meaning you can't just keep up your shield and be safe. You get punished if you rely too much on the shield. It will break, giving your opponent a free hit, which can end up costing you the match. In All-Stars, if you're blocking, nothing will get past it. There's no shield breaking or anything. This also means there's no perfect shielding. Perfect shielding in Smash is when you put up your shield the moment your opponent's attack makes contact, which will negate shield stun and allow you to counterattack right away. It can also be used to bounce back projectiles. In Smash, grabs are able to negate shields, and that is also true for All-Stars. But grabbing is a bit different. In Smash, you use one button to grab. Once someone is grabbed, they are held in place. They can break free, but the higher their percentage, the harder it is to get out. At this point, you have a few options. You can pummel them to bring their percentage up even more, but you can also throw them in 4 directions depending on which way you point the analog stick. In All-Stars, you don't have a grab button. Instead, you use the right analog stick, and which way you point it determines which way you throw your opponent. You can't hold them in place and pummel them for more damage, and if you get grabbed, there's no way to get out of it. Grabbing is how you get past blocking, just like in Smash, but unlike Smash, it's the only way to get through it. Again, limiting your options. Grabbing in All-Stars also serves a different function than in Smash. In Smash, it's another way to deal damage, plus it allows you to move your opponent to where you want them, lead into combos, or just straight up kill them. In All-Stars, all grabbing does is take away from your opponent's AP meter. And now it's time to talk about the central mechanic of All-Stars, which is also the game's biggest flaw. So, how do you even win matches in All-Stars? Is it like Smash where you deal damage to your opponent, and the more damage they take, the more knockback they get until they fly off screen? No. Perhaps it's more like traditional fighting games that have health bars. Nope. Well then, what is it? All of those attacks you throw out don't deal any damage to your opponent at all. Instead, it increases your AP meter. AP apparently standing for All-Star Power. Once you fill it up, you can use a super move. This super move is the only thing that can kill opponents. This meter also increases up to 3 levels, giving each character 3 levels of super moves. Obviously, as the level increases, the more effective it is. The supers themselves are basically the final smashes in Smash Brothers. In Smash, sometimes a smash ball will appear, and the first player to break it can perform a final smash, which is this really powerful character-specific move. Final smashes are quite fun, but there is a big difference between them and the supers in All-Stars. Final smashes are not the primary way of defeating your opponent in Smash. They are an extra way of doing it. Plus, you can turn them off, which is good. As fun as they can be, they are horribly imbalanced. Some characters have ludicrously overpowered final smashes, while others have practically useless ones. Now imagine playing Brawl, but the only way you can KO your opponent is with a final smash. That is what it's like to play All-Stars. This is the core of the game. Fill up your super meter and use it to score kills. This has so many problems, and it by itself ruins this game. All the stuff I talked about up until this point, and anything I'll talk about after this, is just the icing on the cake. This is what killed All-Stars. Let's start with the most obvious issue. Just like Final Smashes, the supers are so imbalanced. In fact, I think I could say they're even worse than Final Smashes when it comes to balance. Now, let's talk about balance. I'm not about to say Smash is completely well balanced, but it's a hell of a lot better than All-Stars. Some characters just feel overpowered, while others feel underpowered. There's hardly any middle ground. Most of that is to do with the supers, but even the movesets themselves are unbalanced. Goddamn Kratos was everywhere online back when this game was new. I haven't played online in years, so I don't know how long that lasted, if it ever stopped. But Kratos is so annoying to deal with. Doesn't help that there's no penalty for constantly spamming the same move, so Kratos will be doing this non-stop. Also, all 3 of his supers are good, which just adds to that. Actually, Dante, Noriko, and Raiden are also really annoying to fight as well. It always felt to me that the sword users were overpowered, besides Fortescue. And I think Smash has actually helped me realize why. So in Smash 4, who is considered to be the single best character? Bayonetta. Why is she the best? Now, characters in Smash are often made to play like how they do in their own games, which makes sense and isn't a problem at all. Except with Bayonetta, she comes from a very combo-heavy game, and when that's translated into Smash, it's hard to be shocked by the results. All Stars has several characters like that, characters that can combo you into oblivion. Look at Noriko here, all I'm doing is pushing square. Now look at Toro's square combo. Do you see the issue here? And then of course there's the supers themselves. There are 3 levels of supers. Level 1 supers are typically short-ranged and they vary in effectiveness. Some characters have terrible level 1 supers, which will automatically put them at a disadvantage if they are up against someone with a really good level 1 super, because they need to work harder to get to a level 2 or 3 to be able to effectively fight back. My mains are Sly Cooper, Toro, and I've also gotten a liking to Fortescue recently. And of the 3 of them, only Sly has a decent level 1 super. He has Murray launch forward and anything he gets in contact with dies. It's got a decently sized hitbox. But Toro's is terrible. It's similar, but the hitbox is smaller, and instead of sending a different character for the attack, you get launched forward, which means your opponent can hit you, which will cancel the attack. Why the hell can an ordinary attack cancel out my super move? It is so irritating getting a super and then wasting it because you got hit out of it, or it doesn't land. Supers are delayed, giving your opponent plenty of time to dodge them, making performing them frustrating, unlike Final Smashes, because those aren't necessary to win the match. If I whiff a Final Smash, it's just like, whatever, I didn't need that to win anyways, and it at least prevents others from using it. But if I whiff a super, it's really annoying because now I have to build the meter up again. On the other hand, it can be pretty difficult to avoid certain supers. Both versions of Cole have a way to very easily get you with their level 1. Good Cole can freeze you and then just use the super. Evil Cole has this charge punch that puts you into a falling down animation that you can't get out of and you are vulnerable during, and then use the super. Level 2s are generally more effective. They tend to have longer range or are easier to hit with. Also, they can't be interrupted by normal attacks, thankfully. They're less annoying to perform as you're more likely to hit what you want to hit, and it's nice not being knocked out of them. But that also means they're more annoying to dodge. And then there's the level 3s, and these are the worst. Level 3s will guarantee multiple kills no matter what. Some characters transform similar to Giga Bowser and Wario Man, but all of their attacks kill you. Imagine if in Smash, if Bowser got his final smash where he transforms into Giga Bowser. But if he hits you once, you're dead. But it gets worse since they last a while. People like to exaggerate how good Sonic's final smash is, saying it's easily 2 lives gone, but that is, as I said, an exaggeration. It rarely happens because usually by the time you respawn it has worn off. But it isn't an exaggeration to say that several characters' level 3s can easily take off 2 lives or even 3. They last so long, and unlike Smash where when you respawn you can delay coming back to the stage by not moving, thus increasing your invulnerability time, you just get a couple seconds before you can get killed again. Some characters just go in the background and shoot at everyone else, and there's little you can do to dodge it. And then, some characters' level 3s are just a screen nuke. Yeah, they activate it and everyone else just dies without any way to avoid it. At least you only die once, but still. While it is technically possible to avoid those others, it is very hard to do so, and you are likely to lose multiple lives. Every way you look at it, the level 3s are awful. This whole AP system just sucks. The fact that every super instantly kills you no matter what is such a problem. A single mistake will kill you instantly, unlike in Smash where Final Smashes for the most part don't kill you instantly at low percentages. And it's not like you can play around it. The entire combat system revolves around it. It encourages spamming, there's less skill involved, and it really bogs down the pace. Matches tend to last much longer here than in Smash. My preferred match setup in Smash is 5 stock, whether it's 4 players or 1v1. But 5 stocks in All-Stars just drags. You can't kill your opponent quickly by doing some cool combo or with a spike or anything. You can't be creative, you need to use one of the 3 designated killing options. You don't have any intense matches where you're both at high percentages with 1 stock and any good hit can decide the victor. because you don't take any damage. Any hit you take doesn't actually hurt you, and any progress anyone makes can very easily be negated with a grab. As I mentioned before, grabbing will take away your opponent's AP, so even if you're in a dangerous position and they have a super ready to go, you could just grab them and send them back. In fact, that's the most ideal tactic. In Smash, every hit matters, because every bit of percentage you get makes it easier to be killed. Can't reverse that unless you pick up a healing item, but those can be turned off. You can't turn the AP meter off. All of this, in addition to everything I've said before, makes the gameplay annoying, slow, and unsatisfying. Well, now that that's out of the way, let's actually look at what modes this game has to offer, starting with the versus mode since that's what most people would care the most about. You have your standard stock and time matches. They function exactly like they do in Smash. And then there's kill limit. Basically, if you set it to 3, you win when you get 3 kills. And that's it. What, no coin battle? Actually good, coin battle sucks. But yeah, that's all there is. I mean, Smash also only had 3 main battle modes, stock, timed, and coin, but it also had special fights where you could add and combine weird attributes, like having a 300% Mega Flower Metal Curry Heavy Brawl. Also, Smash has the option to have stamina matches, which is basically a health bar. It is only in the special Smash option, but it's been upgraded to one of the main modes in Ultimate. So, it's pretty basic with its modes. How about the stages? Well, there are 15 stages total, not including DLC, and Melee had 18 stages, if you don't include the unlockable stages. With them, Melee has 29 stages. Once again, All-Stars falls short of Melee. But are those stages even any good? Well, actually, I do have some compliments regarding the stages. Sort of. While none of the stages really stand out as being really good, I don't exactly gravitate to any of the stages over others, but most of them aren't bad at all. The thing I really like about these stages is that they cross over. So you might pick this Sly Cooper stage, and part of the way through, the Negativatron from Little Big Planet appears and becomes a stage hazard. Or you could be on the Ratchet & Clank stage and then the Hydra from God of War appears. This is pretty cool, and I'd even go as far to say this is the best thing in the entire game. I wouldn't mind if Smash were to copy it. Now, some complaints I have regarding the stages have more to do with the mechanics of the game rather than the design of the stages. Like, for instance, since your character doesn't actually take damage, what stage hazards do is take away AP, which is just annoying. Although you can turn stage hazards off, which is good. That's a feature Smash has lacked all the way up till Ultimate. Although sometimes it doesn't seem to work. I turn them off here. I'm fairly certain a giant monster spitting acid on the ground counts as a stage hazard. Some stages do have a bottomless pit, but it doesn't kill you. Instead, it just spawns you back up in a stunned animation. There's one stage that I really don't like, though. Alden's Tower. It's an infamous stage that crosses over with Sly Cooper, so I want to like it, but it's a vertical scrolling stage for the first half, and I never liked those kinds of stages. Now, if you turn off stage hazards, then you're just at the top, which is fine. Except for that, for some reason, there's this glowing orb in the center that if you stand in for long enough will drop a bunch of AP. So naturally, this encourages camping. It's not so bad against AI, but I always dreaded having to play this stage online back in the day. Now, much like Smash, this game has items. Items in Smash are a fun way to add chaos into the battle. I tend to switch between having them on and off, but for the most part, it's really fun messing around with them. You can get satisfying kills with them, or just annoy your opponent, or be able to make a comeback. But for some reason, I never really liked the items in All-Stars. Didn't know why, but I think I have an idea now. For one thing, they serve a different function than in Smash thanks to the whole AP mechanic. Most items will take away your opponent's AP, which just makes them annoying rather than fun to use. There are a few that give you AP, but again, they're not nearly as satisfying as the items in Smash. Hitting someone with a fish in All-Stars isn't nearly as satisfying as hitting someone with a home run bat, because you aren't doing any damage to your opponent. You also can't throw items. In Smash, any item you hold in your hands can be thrown, which will also do damage, but you can't do that here unless the purpose of the item is to be thrown. Also, all items benefit the player who gets them. There aren't any items that can backfire, like bombs or dud items that sometimes don't work, or have the opposite effect. Those duds, and items that can blow up on you if you attack them, added more chaos to the fight. There's a lot less items, which means a lot less variety. There's no container-type items, like boxes, barrels, or capsules that give you more items or just explode when broken. There's no Pokeball or Assist Trophy equivalent that gives you a temporary ally to help in the fight. There's no healing items since they wouldn't be necessary unless you want to count this crate that gives you AP. There's no Dragoon equivalent, there's no time manipulation items, and hardly any passive buffs. The items are overall less random and chaotic, and Smash, depending on what items spawn, could be a game changer, which added to the chaos. No item in All-Stars is like that. Except maybe the Medusa head, which is the only other way to kill someone besides the supers, but it spawns so infrequently. I know not everyone likes items, which is why they can be turned off, and that is also the case for All-Stars. But for when you have them turned on, Smash's items add a lot of fun and chaos to the fight, while All-Stars do not. And now for the single-player options, and boy is this game lacking when it comes to single-player. But before I get into that, I want to bring up practice mode, which is nice to have, but I have a problem with it. In Smash, you can spawn any item you want in trading mode, so that you could easily test them out. But in All-Stars, you can't do that. You have to manually turn off all the items you don't want before you even get into the stage. Wait for it to load, and then wait for the item to spawn. That is a pain in the ass, and this game's load times are worse than Brawl's. Want to find out how each item works? You need to exit out, change the item, go back in, or just turn them all on and hope that one you want spawns. Okay, enough of that. All you have for single player is arcade mode, combat trials, and that's it. That's it. Wow. Again, even going back to Melee, that game had a lot more single player options. You have classic mode, adventure mode, all-stars mode, you have event matches and stadium minigames. You also have unlockables in the forms of trophies. You could also unlock characters and stages throughout these modes. It adds variety, and the unlockables gave you an incentive to play them. Technically, there are unlockables in All-Stars, but it's stuff like taunts and minions, which do nothing and are a bit creepy if you ask me. The only Smash All-Stars manages to beat in terms of content is the original Smash 64, but even that's debatable. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's actually see what these modes are. Let's start with the combat trials. You have two options here, General and Character. General just means the trials pick the character for you, while Character means you pick which character you want. Now these are essentially event matches from Smash. You play through a specific challenge, but they're not very interesting. The general trials just seem to be basic tutorials, even though the game already has tutorials. Like, why is kill your opponent with a super a combat trial when that's the entire point of the game? And then there are their character trials. And one problem right away is that no matter which character you pick, you get to do the same trials. A few of them are character specific, but most of them are exactly the same with every character. Yeah, this won't get really tedious on the 20th time completing it. Again, these trials aren't nearly as interesting as the event matches in Smash, particularly Melee's events. You get all kinds of unique challenges there, like being a giant DK fighting a small DK, having to wait for Zelda to change into Sheik before defeating her, having to fight 128 mini Marios, all kinds of stuff. Plus, there are more of these than in All-Stars. 51. And these can get pretty tough, especially Event 51 with Giga Bowser. Well, this isn't looking good so far, but maybe arcade mode will redeem it? Oh, who am I kidding? Arcade mode sucks. I guess it can most be compared to classic mode, but not really. It's more so like arcade modes in traditional fighting games, but I bet those are way better. So you pick a character and get a cutscene of that character, but it's just still images with dialogue. Meanwhile, in Brawl... And after that, you fight someone for 3 minutes, because it's a timed match and not a stock match, so there's nothing you can do to speed it up. Then you fight 2 fighters for 3 minutes. Then you fight 3 fighters for 3 minutes. Then you do that again. and then it finally changes the rules to let you do a couple kill limit fights so you can end it early. Keep in mind, you get a load time in between each fight, and as previously stated, they're not the best load times around. Then you fight your rival, so each character has a rival. This is the only significance they have. You get a scene with the two characters interacting, and while it is cool to see the characters interact, it's very basic and boring excuses to have them fight. Sometimes it's funny, like how Kratos makes Sweet Tooth drop his ice cream, and he wants Kratos to pay for it.
My ice cream cone. That was a mistake, buddy.
A mistake I can correct, if you like.
Maybe you didn't hear me, friend. There's a debt here, and I'm ready to settle up.
Stand aside.
Pick that up and pay for it.
But most of the time it's not very interesting, which is disappointing. What's also disappointing is that this is all the interactions these characters get, and they only do it with their rivals, no one else. Want to have Sly Cooper interact with Ratchet? Too bad, Nathan Drake is Sly's rival. You know what would have been cool? A full-on story mode with cutscenes having all the fighters band together to fight a greater foe. You know, kinda like Brawl did. Brawl did just that in the Subspace Emissary, and while there was no dialogue, it was still cool to see these characters interact with each other.
Yeah!
Not only did it have a story and plenty of cutscenes, but it wasn't just fight after fight, it had actual levels. Some don't like these that much, and I'll admit, they aren't amazing or anything. But it was a cool addition and pretty ambitious. Ambitious is not a word I'd use to describe All-Stars. But anyways, after defeating your rival, you get to the boss, Polygon Man. Really? Polygon Man? That's what you got? When I first played this, I thought it was so lame. But Polygon Man does have some history to him. He was going to be the mascot for the PS1 before it got scrapped. That's actually a really cool reference. Too bad the boss fight sucks. Can't even really call it a boss because you don't even fight Polygon Man. You just fight one of the other characters, then he slams his head on the ground, which does nothing to you because you take no damage. You beat him up a bit. You fight two more guys, he slams his head in the ground again. You fight three more guys, he slams his head down again, and that's it, you win. That was pathetic. Like, really. That's almost as bad as the final boss in Arkham Asylum, where you get this big mutated Joker who just stands in the background while you fight mooks. He does sometimes turn into one of the stage hazards, which is kinda cool, I guess, but it's just terrible. This whole arcade mode is awful, and by the time you finish it, it took a half an hour. Meanwhile, in Melee, you have classic mode where, for one, all the fights are stock, meaning they don't drag on, but also you get a larger variety of fights, like one-on-ones, team battles, battles with a swarm of enemies, giant battles, and a battle with a metal character. Plus, you get a few minigames like Race to the Finish that tests you to get as far as you can, this weird trophy catching game, and Break the Targets that has a different layout for each character. And then at the end you fight Master Hand, an actual boss fight. And depending on the difficulty, you could also have to fight Crazy Hand. You do all this in about 10 minutes. A third of the time it took to do a playthrough of arcade mode in All-Stars, but way more variety in what you do. Pathetic. And that's not even mentioning the adventure mode, which, while it isn't randomized like Classic, again, has a lot more variety in its fights. Plus, a lot of unique levels you go through. And it ends with a fight with Bowser that on higher difficulties turns into Giga Bowser. And even adventure mode is shorter than arcade mode, going about 20 minutes. Even Brawl's classic mode, which isn't quite as good as Melee's, has a lot more going for it than arcade mode. Hell, even Smash 4's butchered classic mode is better. When Smash 4's classic mode is better, then you know you've royally screwed up. Even the one single player mode in Smash 64 is better. And that one didn't have your opponents randomized, but it still had more variety. A fight with a giant DK, a fight with a bunch of Kirbys with different hats on, a fight with Metal Mario, a few minigames, and a boss fight with Master Hand. And this is all the content you get. That's it, that's the whole game. Like, I know I've been comparing this game to Smash this entire time. I kind of feel a bit guilty doing it. Because honestly, even comparing this game to Melee really feels unfair, let alone Brawl. You know what, let's look at a couple indie platform fighters. Here's Brawlhalla and Brawl Out. While they pale in comparison to Smash, they at least are more justified in lacking content since they're small indie games. Meanwhile, All-Stars was a AAA PlayStation exclusive. But also, these games kept the most important thing from Smash: the core gameplay. Both of these games have you win matches by knocking your opponent off the stage, like in Smash, with their own twists. And because of that, even though they lack content, these two games are still pretty fun to play. All of my complaints about All-Stars single player wouldn't really have mattered much if the core gameplay was much better. But All-Stars fails in both aspects.
Should I point out that I'm a bird and you're using fucking lightning? You bitch, what do I have to hit you with, feathers?
I have jokingly called this game Sony Smash a few times, and many have used that as an insult for this game. It's just copying Smash, but I think I've made it clear that its problem is the complete opposite. This game was so scared of being a Smash clone that it changed things for the sake of differentiating itself from Smash. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking a formula and adjusting it to something new, but the new thing has to be good. If this game had just been a Smash clone, while it would be a little less original, it would have been better. But because this game and possibly others were too afraid of being called a ripoff, that just kept reinforcing Smash as its own thing, which means that anything else that tried to do something similar will be called a Smash clone. Let's think back to Doom. You all know Doom, one of the earliest first-person shooters. Well, there were a lot of other first-person shooters that used Doom's formula. A lot of these games were called Doom clones, but notice how we don't call the genre Doom clone, because since many of these games weren't afraid of being Doom clones, what happened? We got more first-person shooters. Doom had competition. While many still considered Doom to be the top dog, there were many alternatives, and many of them were also quite good. And eventually, they stopped being Doom clones and became first-person shooters. All-Stars is a Smash clone that doesn't want to be a Smash clone. And because no one else seemingly wants to be a Smash clone, any game that plays similarly is a Smash clone and not its own genre. You don't create a genre by taking a unique game and unnecessarily changing its core mechanics. You build up upon what made it good, you don't tear it down. What All-Stars did to Smash is like if in Duke Nukem, instead of just shooting the enemies to kill them like in Doom, you shot them to fill your grenade meter, and grenades were the only way to kill anything. Doesn't sound too fun now, does it? Now lately, we have been getting more indie games that play similarly to Smash, and they're starting to be known as platform fighters rather than Smash clones. But perhaps, if All-Stars wasn't afraid to keep what made Smash good, it could have inspired others to do the same, and we could have had a platform fighter genre a lot sooner. Imagine that timeline. An entire genre's worth of games, just like Super Smash Bros. And that's all I have to say. Such a shame, really, because there was a lot of potential in a Sony Smash. I never wanted to dislike this game. I desperately wanted to love it as much as I love Smash, but I just can't. I can't say it's really even a bad game, but it's not very good either. All I can hope for is possibly a sequel sometime in the future, but that might mean Sony would have to start caring about their own legacy again. But if it does happen, I hope they embrace its inspiration. Also, change its names because PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale is a mouthful. And hey, if we were to get another one, we could finally play as Nick, baby! Although at this point, I'd be happy if Nintendo somehow got the rights to Sly Cooper so he could be in Smash. They might actually treat a series better than Sony currently is, too. Well, that's it. But before I go, I have some good news. Would you take a look at this? That looks like Smash Bros. For 3DS on the screen. That's right, I got myself a 3DS capture card. With it, I can finally start doing something I've wanted to do for a while. But before I get to that, I have some unfinished business I need to attend to. I'll see you there. Actually, the real reason this game sucks is there's way too much blue in it. The logo's blue, the box art is blue, the intro is blue, the menus are blue, Polygon Man's arena is blue, you glow blue when you get a super, Good Cole is blue, Sly Cooper is blue, I can't believe I even like that guy, too much sodding blue.
Me and you and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be, the only one for me is you.
Something's gone wrong in the happy-go-lucky world of Nintendo. Introducing Super Smash Bros., where all your favorite characters go toe-to-toe in one 4-player star-studded slam fest, only on Nintendo 64.